Good morning, Ms. Belcher. Welcome. Please make yourself comfortable and you may begin with your opening statement.
Mrs. Roberts and members of the commission, when I first became a judge, I was told that I would lose my first name. I learned the meaning of my name at my investiture when a dear friend and my mentor, Mrs. Willie Stevenson Glanton, shared that the meaning of my name was protecting hands, wise counselor. I enjoy the intellectual challenge of decision-making and resolving disputes, and I have the utmost confidence in my ability to be a fair and impartial jurist, understanding that that impartiality must rise above any fear or affection, any fear of making an unpopular decision that is supported by the law, or affection or belief that is contrary to the law. I recognize that my decisions must be beholden only to the natural and logical application of the law. My work history, lived experiences, and my judicial philosophy make me uniquely qualified for the Iowa Court of Appeals. Having 15 years of litigation experience have given me a broad knowledge of many of the different types of cases that appear before this court. My 9 years of judicial experience have demonstrated my character, my temperament, and my ability to identify the material facts, apply those facts to the law, and to enter sound, decisive rulings as evident by my 350 termination of parental rights rulings. I have traveled outside Polk County and had an opportunity to preside over cases in the smaller or rural areas, so I understand those needs as well. I grew up in a small town with limited means, but I am fortunate that I had parents who instilled in me the importance of my faith and the importance of having integrity and strong convictions. I understand that while I identify with others who are marginalized, that with my perseverance and my work ethic, I believed, and I had the audacity to believe, that I could make a difference. Every day, my decisions have an impact on the lives of others. I show compassion and patience to those appearing in my courtroom so justice can be seen and not just done. And I believe that helps to ensure the public's confidence in a fair and impartial judiciary. As a judge, or as the protector of the rule of law, I understand that my sole obligation is to determine the material facts and apply those facts to the law with wisdom, but to the law as it is written by the legislature. Our appellate courts are designed for collaboration of ideas to get and have an application of the law to get to a decision. There is little need for collaboration in the absence of diverse thoughts, opinions, lived experiences, or backgrounds. While I may have lost the use or reference of my first name, I am pleased that it has not lost its meaning. I thank each of you for your service on this commission. I remain humble at this opportunity to appear before you. And again, I ask for your vote of confidence in my nomination to the Iowa Court of Appeals. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Belcher. And we will have opportunity for commission members to ask questions at this time. Mr. Horbach.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Judge Belcher, could you just remind me, our discussions on some of the letters of recommendation commented about your caseload. Could you just go through that? If I remember right, you handled an extraordinary amount of cases. Could you just review that for me?
Yes. My docket consists of over 400 cases a month, so I touch over 400 cases each month. In over a year, I've written 50 termination of parental rights rulings. I have done that without the assistance of a lot of clerical help. It is important to me that I give each case the necessary thought that is needed for me to draw a conclusion and reach a decision. But I have a very high docket with both child in need of assistance matters and delinquent matters. The delinquent matters are those criminal acts, or what would be criminal if committed by a person who is older than 18. And I have an opportunity to look at the procedural and evidentiary information that is similar to that of a district court.
Thank you.
Mr. Bevel.
Thank you. Judge Belcher, could you referenced 15 years of litigation experience. What is your could you explain that for us?
As a prosecutor, I prosecuted juvenile cases, operating while intoxicated or OWI cases, drug offenses, domestic violence cases, and I also had experience in civil prosecution. So all of those areas are very similar to the areas that would be appealed to this court.
Mrs. Sinclair.
No questions.
Ms. Valentine.
Thank you. The theme of the letters that we received in support of your candidacy suggested to me a lot of commonality between you're tough yet compassionate. And I'm curious your thoughts as to how you balance that tension between being tough yet compassionate.
I think the toughness comes from my duty to follow the law. The compassion comes from understanding most of the people that appear before me have experienced some trauma. Most of the people that appear before me have experienced a lot of loss, lack of education, low financial means, domestic violence, substance abuse, mental health. So there is where my compassion comes in, but the toughness comes in from my responsibility to follow the law.
Thank you.
Mr. Berger.
No question.
Ms. Stanger.
No questions.
Ms. Pearson.
No question.
Mr. Gray.
Nothing.
Ms. Law.
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Goodman.
Judge, thank you for your application. You are one of 2 associate district court judges that have applied, and there are 5 other district court judges. And then we have 9 other people that have applied, made up of private practitioners, 5, and some governmental lawyers. What guidance would you give us in looking at that slate of applicants, and in particular distinguishing between district court judges and associate district court judges? And I bring that up because in my conversation with you and also Judge Allers, an appeal was made to me that more of your docket overlaps the Court of Appeals docket. And if that's true, I'd like you to address that and shed some light on that.
I do believe that judicial experience is necessary as to how I would distinguish myself from those who are not currently jurists. As to how I would distinguish myself from a district judge, as a district associate judge, I have a high volume of cases. I hear and I preside over matters which are very much similar to the matters that are appealed before this court. The recency and the volume of cases that I hear exceeds that which is heard by the district court. Most cases are resolved by plea or stipulation. But as a district associate judge, and particularly in presiding over juvenile cases for the past 7 years, every matter is presented to me as the court. So I have been in a better position to determine those material facts and to apply the facts to the law, as opposed to, as a district court judge, a lot of those matters that are presented to the court are determined by a jury. So as a district associate judge, I have had more experience in demonstrating the ability to determine the material facts, to apply the facts to the law, and to enter concise, decisive rulings.
Thank you.
Mr. Sukup.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
From your experiences at the county attorney's office, how did that transfer over to your district court experience?
Again, I believe that transfers because it gives me a working knowledge of many different areas of the law, many of the same areas that are appealed before this court. People ask me when I left the county attorney's office and became a judge, how was that transition? My reputation was then fair yet firm, but because my focus has always been on the pursuit or ensuring justice, I was better able to make the transition as a court or as a judge because, again, of the need and desire to ensure a justice is made.
Thank you.
Ms. O'Brien.
Thank you. No questions.
Mr. Hoyting.
Judge, I noticed you gave a very great opening speech without any notes of any kind, which left me wondering whether you'd be better going back to private practice or getting into politics. But why do you want to make the jump from what you're doing today? That it's obvious you're touching a lot of lives and your mission is important to you. What makes you want to jump from where you're at today to the Court of Appeals?
I enjoy what I do today, and I recognize I'm in a position to make a difference. I also recognize that I can make a difference in the application of the law and bring in a diverse background and ideas and thoughts to the collaborative decision-making of the appellate court. I recognize I can continue to make a difference in that vein, and because I enjoy the challenge of decision-making and resolving disputes, I believe my presence would enhance the current court.
Thank you.
Mr. Spees.
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
I enjoyed our meeting, and I think you're the only person I've ever met who grew up wanting to be a judge. Could you tell us, please, because of your enormous caseload and the variety of heavy lifting decisions you have to make, could you outline for us what your research methods, your writing methods are? I gather you probably don't have very much support in the 5th District. What methods do you use in going about cranking out a lot of rulings in a short period of time?
Because of the volume and because of the lack of a lot of clerical support and having to do my docket in addition to writing those rulings simultaneously, it is important for me for hearings that are not termination hearings that I enter the ruling at the close of the hearing. So the people who appear before me will have the court's ruling when they leave my courtroom. When it comes to making a determination as to termination of parents' rights, that requires a lot more time and thoughtfulness, whereby I have to go through each of those decision points that I have made and make a determination as to whether or not the state has met its burden to make a finding that the parents' parental rights should be terminated.
Thank you.
Mr. Bloom.
I very much enjoyed our interview, but I have no questions right now.
Ms. Conover.
Judge Belcher, if my days in juvenile court, if I'm remembering them correctly, the Court of Appeals reviews termination of parental rights proceedings and maybe others on a de novo standard of review. How would you approach that given your years on the juvenile bench, presiding over those cases, hearing evidence firsthand, and how would you translate that into assisting your colleagues on the juvenile court bench if you are fortunate to be appointed to that bench?
One, I believe my experience provides an understanding of the impact of our decisions on individuals. We have to understand that when we read those decisions, it's more than just words on a page. There are actual people whose lives are going to be impacted and affected by the decisions that we make. So having had years of experience in understanding and making those specific decision points as to leading up to a termination of parental rights, I believe I add a lot of knowledge in terms of how those decisions are affected and the way in which those facts should be applied to the law.
Thank you, Judge Belcher, for being here today. We appreciate your being here, and we wish you well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.